Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you're watching us from. My name is Brian and I'm happy to be in today's show. Of course, we are back with another episode. And before I just tell you the title of the show, I want us to just say our names. Now, where's my right hand? The right hand of the
other one.
It depends. It depends.
My right side is on that side.
The one who's watching, this is their right hand.
Yes.
But my right hand is
Yeah, so
this
let us
direction.
use the ones who are watching.
Anyway, we can just say our names and then we move on from there.
Hello there, guys. My name is Joshua. I am blessed and happy to be here today. Thank you for tuning in today's podcast.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. My name is Jesse Mbogwa. I'm so much glad to be here and I'm happy and I'm ready for the conversation.
Wow.
Yes.
So if you're happy, you have to maintain the smiling face
Okay,
till
like
the
this.
end.
Okay,
Yeah,
like this.
yeah.
I'm happy and
Yes. So today we are talking about David, King David. We know him as the shepherd boy. Then he moves from that, the giant slayer.
Yeah.
Then from there he becomes the king of Israel. We know him to be a worshipper. We know very many good aspects of him. But then we have we have another side of him. The man who took Uriah's wife. The Bible describes him as the man after God's own heart.
Yeah.
So, the big question here today is, can somebody be deeply flawed and still be used by God?
Ooh.
So, let us know in the comment section as we dive into this conversation. Okay?
Yeah.
So, let's get into it.
Yeah.
Now, I want us to look at David's character as a man of God or just a man. Is he a man of God or just a
Just
man?
a mere man.
Yeah, a mere man. And so, how do we reconcile his divine calling with his moral failures? Maybe this
father.
one. Let me
start.
post this to Jesse.
Father can start. Yeah. No, Jesse was the father of David.
Yes,
you should
yes.
tell us more.
Hey.
Growing up, how was David?
Yes,
That
yes.
was amazing.
Did he have all these?
By the way,
Was he showing signs?
Let me make this clear. Kuna mambo nimeona yakiwa. There are things I've seen people saying, oh, Jesse had forgotten his son David. Oh,
Yeah,
I'm now
yeah.
here to make things clear. I had not forgotten my son David.
Oh, okay.
Remember, David was a very young boy. So when Samuel is telling me to bring forth, bring some my sons who are supposed to be kings, definitely I'll bring my grown-ups. I'll not bring small boys.
Small boys.
Yeah.
This is
Small
a
boys
serious
are not
matter.
supposed
This is a
to be
serious matter.
And Prophet
you don't
Samuel.
bring boys into serious matters. So that is the mentality that I had. So I brought all my sons who are warriors,
Who looked
the
like,
part
yeah.
according to our eyes. But then David was doing his job. But God
You had
decided,
sent him on some errands.
yeah, so
with the sheep.
David decided to do his job. Yeah. So
All right.
God decided to do his
So you didn't. Okay, so
I didn't think of David as a king at that age.
Was he
he was too
misbehaving?
small for it.
He was too small for it. If somebody came and told you, I want you to make it very... Nasi kujitetea. If somebody came to your house and told you, God has showed me that one of your children will become the president of Kenya. In your constitution, you know. Miaka ngapi by then should somebody
35?
qualify to be a president? 35 years. So will you parade a 25-year-old?
If God has said,
No, I'm saying...
No, by the
according to
qualification.
Constitution,
Yes, qualifications
you will
of
bring
men.
those who are 35 years old and above. So if it is one, you will parade that one. The rest, utaamua, they are already disqualified according to our thinking. But God ni nani? God ni nani?
God overrides our thinking. He
Okay.
overrides our constitution.
I love that. Anyway, going back to the question.
The question, yeah.
I think one of the most exciting things about David's story, the Bible, it's that the Bible is able to give us his whole life in a very, it's able to paint the good and the bad, the good, the bad, and the ugly. and puts it together. But one point that remains in that whole story is that David was a man after God's heart. I think that is the baseline of his whole story.
Yes.
It's not about his failures. It's not about the
His
mistakes that he's
successes.
made and the success. God says, a man after my own heart. So I'll say one of the things I would say about your question is that it's a good way God shows us that clearly that God does not really need perfect people.
Okay.
He's not looking for perfect people for the things that he's doing. He's not qualifying. You're not qualified. You don't qualify to the call first. You come into the call, then he qualifies you. So the people that God uses, most of the time, if you look carefully, you'll see their flaws. And basically that's why I would say that it's a good thing is that we can learn from David is that God uses ordinary men.
Okay.
People with flaws, people who make mistakes, people who look like they cannot be good leaders
Even young.
and young. And it is interesting that David is a king who doesn't have a throne for some few years, for some years,
For quite a number of
for
years.
quite a long time. So I think basically what I can get from that is that he's a man that God has chosen to rule. He does not look at his mistakes or the mistakes that he will do or the flaws that he has, the weaknesses. He just chooses the man. The other thing I see is that the aspect that what is most important is that God says he's a man after my own heart. That is the baseline of everything about his story.
Okay.
Yes.
Wow. You said something powerful, that God does not need a very qualified person so that he can work with them.
Yeah.
So that means that David had a lot of imperfections.
A lot of them.
So you mean that God, maybe let me pose this question to Josh. You mean that God does not care, or can you be serving God even in weaknesses? Let's say you're not a perfect person, but then God is okay you serving him that way.
I believe so, yes. It's very possible. And there is a scripture that says that the vessel that, cleanses itself is the one that God or the master will use. At times we have very many flaws. We make mistakes. At times it could be the pressure in the moment. It could be, trying to impress, trying to, look good before men. But you see, what God does is he looks at our hearts. He doesn't really look at, he can look at our actions. He can, it's possible, but most of the time he looks at our heart. David says that a broken and a contrite heart, the Lord shall not reject. And you see, David, most of the time, when he went before the Lord, he went with a contrite and a broken heart. Not a heart that was puffed up or a heart that was, pretending to be sorry, but he's not sorry.
Or making excuses.
Yes, making excuses. At times it's possible tunaweza ingia kwa presence ya God and you cry, lakini unajua deep within asia tuko sorry.
Unaenda
tu kurudia makosa. unaenda tu kuifanya tena. But you see, what David did, he never repeated. He was sorry. He never repeated the mistake. He never did it again. He never took anyone's wife again. He never killed anyone again, where it was not in battle. You see?
Okay.
And that is what God looks at. When you are sorry, you are completely sorry. You don't go repeating the mistakes again. And you see, life has many challenges that will come our way. And when, the temptation or the test presents itself, will you pass the test? Ama utaanguka mtihani tena? And kuna recurrent exams that come in our life. So when it recurs again, will you fall again ama utakuwa better?
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. I know that we are following the conversation. Let's keep typing down there. And Jesse,
Yes.
in today's church, assuming you know somebody came, gave their testimony, praise the Lord, I've been doing ABCD and the Lord has delivered me. Assuming I have broken the Maybe the 10 commandments. What
All
are the
of
10
them at the
commandments?
same time.
I have done this. I have not been worshiping God. I have, all those things. Like David, we know he was a murderer. He was a murderer. That one we can't we can't sugarcoat
continuous
it.
Huyo hakucheza na damu ya
Hey.
watu, huyo.
Yes, he killed. He took someone's wife.
Yeah.
So adultery and
Beguiled them.
so many things
Yeah.
that we just don't want to talk about here. In today's church, and assuming that person is even in power, how would you think will be the perception? Would it be wise to still continue being there? What would they think of him or that kind of a person? Is it the right
I'm
place?
just thinking.
In today's church.
But then I'm just if David existed in our times, when you took on social media,
We-
Eh,
and he's a king.
scandals after scandals.
You see,
Ingekuwa tumempost.
first of all, you need to
trend.
understand the culture, our culture today. Tuko kwa culture inajita cancel culture. Yani inamaanisha if you just do something and we do not agree with it, we'll really cancel you. We'll deal with you perpendicularly. We'll make you trend on Twitter. So I'm just imagining King David will be trending on Twitter.
Hashtag-
This hashtag
Hashtag giant
Ooh,
slayer.
jamaa,
Hashtag wife stealer.
woman, sijui whatever. You just
Womanizer.
imagine. Yes, you just imagine the words that are the hashtags that will be there. Definitely, of course, it will be a bad state for David right now. People would stop believing in him. That's one of the things that I've noticed that in our day to day, we are very, I think there's something about our generation right now. Culture yetu, cancel culture, haiko gracious enough.
Yeah, true.
Haiko gracious enough. We don't want to give anyone time. If you have given us a certain, maybe Joshua is a leader. And we have known you as a leader. And then all of a sudden, certain scandal inatokea about you. We will not be gracious about, including us.
We'll be very merciless.
Including the church.
Yes, we'll be very merciless with you. Oh, what kind of a leader is he? You know you're supposed to stand for this. But then again, you see, God and human beings are nivi. You see, the reason why God will allow some people who are still flawed to be still in leadership is because God looks at the whole story. Sisi tuko so much limited with what has happened here and now. We do not know Joshua in the next 10 years. We just know Joshua now. He has made these mistakes. He needs to go. And I think that attitude will not take us anywhere because no one is perfect. Even if I present myself to be perfect, I am not perfect. Today, I might not be doing something that might expose me to the public. But there are things that God looks at me in my heart and knows this guy is still not perfect. There is a lot that has to be done on him. But see, God uses you. You see, again, going back, God is not looking for perfect people to use. Because as he's using you, he's changing you and transforming you. You get to know him more as you are working together with God, as you're partnering with God.
So you're saying that God is not really bothered with those imperfections and those things that
we are the people who are bothered with that. And when you're working together, when you partner with God, there's a change and there's a transformation that will have to come into your life if you submit. Remember, there's a place of the will of a man. You have to submit to God to change you. So as you're growing, as you're changing, we'll start seeing you differently. We'll start seeing, even us who are now the men who just see the short story, tutaanza kuona, okay, yeah, you are being used by God. But then again, if God allows something to be exposed about you, there is always something up. God allowing
There's a bigger picture.
There's always a bigger picture. For us to know David. Do you know it is interesting? I'm just imagining painting a picture about David. David is not the most peaceful man. Unile mtu ungemcross.
You remember another prophet?
Heads will roll.
Do you remember the prophet? Yeah, the prophet who was sent by God to regarding the issue of King David taking the wife of Uriah. The wisdom that he had to use.
Yes. And imagine, remember the guy who came and said, yeah, guess what, King David? I have killed
your
Saul.
enemy. Saul.
Just imagine who this king was. King David was not a joke. If the Bible says God alikataa juu ya blood on his hands, This was a bloody king.
David
was not a joke. David was not a person who mungecheka tu na yeye. If unge cross line,
unaweza fikiri kuja kumwambia joke kama kitambamba
heads in a roll.
Akwambia
So at some point, I think cartoons have painted a picture of David being this good man, and it's okay for Bible stories. But if you really look at the character of David as you're reading David, you see another man that ukweli alikuwa na need. Equally, he needed to be after God's heart.
He was from the very beginning, yes, because growing up as a young boy, we saw where he was, playing the harp for King Saul, and the demons would leave him. So he had God from the very beginning.
Imagine from his teenagehood, he's dealing with lions. Unadhani huyu mtu unaweza joke naye akiwa
amerarua simba.
But I think akona two inaitwaje? Akona two sides like a coin. Yenye one side broken before God. Msichana ingia kwa presence ya God, ana break, machozi analia. Remember when the ark was coming back to Israel? Look how he danced. Ungesema ni king.
Yes.
He danced his clothes off. And there's the other side where anakuangalia na kuambia, what did you do? You touched the anointed of the Lord. Mse pale vi
kichwa iende.
Yes.
So he was so serious with God. I see him that way. So damn serious with God. But on the other hand, jaribu
cross kidogo.
Cross tu kidogo.
But unajua ulikuwa na cross design yenye unaguza God wake. Hapo na deal na wewe.
Hapo na deal na wewe.
It's so kama una cross mambo ya God.
So I believe if he lived today, oh man.
I've been looking at the many scandals, like certain bishop somewhere. There were scandals of late. Then many things happening, and that affects the quality or
what
what perspective of the church, and the people and the men of God. Do you think that time it was not an issue, or what happened? Do you think it affected even the church that time, or?
Personally, you see, for them at that time,
church haikukua, but the worship of God.
But you see, the difference is that King David is a king, number one. He's a king, so he was a warrior. You have to understand. You just look at the people who surrounded him, the 5. Just look at them. Another thing, he's a man that loves God, a man who is totally sold out to God. He's a man who is totally sold out to God, and he's a man. Hiyo combination unifurahisha sana. He's a man whose heart, even encouraged pia mimi. He's a man who is sold out to God, but he's still a man.
Yes, he's still a man.
God is using this man who can be tempted here and there. Sometimes he overcomes it, sometimes he falls, but he's still focused on God. There's no time you'll find David, even when he was found in sin. The time he was praying for that child, you remember? To be saved. And the moment that child died, what did he do? Aliamka na akajitengeneza na akasonga. Like, this guy is so much focused on God. That tells me it's not about his weakness. To move my perspective from his weakness, and that is not what is affecting our church today. So many scandals, and that's the reason of cancel culture. Cancel culture haikupatii time ya kujitetea. If today you're a man of God and something it okay, like this culture will deal with you harshly. Now, that affects the perspective of we who are looking at now the man of God at the church. But now we who are born again, we are not supposed to look at it the ordinary way, the way people wanaangalia. We have first of all to understand that he is a man after God's heart. He is a man who is looking at God. But then again, kuna hao wengine pia wenye kusema ukweli si ati wako na ukora ndani yao. Na kuna venye God pia alikuwa na deal nao. Unajua Mungu hawezi mficha roho yako.
Hawezi mficha.
Kuna reason kwa nini, na go back to the main thing. Kuna reason kwa nini God anasema this is a man after my own heart. No matter whatever he's doing, he's a man who is seeking.
David was seeking the Lord's heart.
He was seeking God. So wewe ambao uko exposed, I'm saying when you're living with people, of course you have to be very careful.
Yes.
I'm not saying that you go and do your no. You have to be very careful, but you can never be so much careful to make mistakes. You will one day make mistakes. And one day you'll make a mistake before someone who has been looking for that moment to destroy you. Wow. And when they get that moment, they wanna blow. But for us as a church, I think we shouldn't follow the obvious way, which is to rebuke someone and get them out.
Somebody that's a hypocrite.
No, that is not the way.
Yeah.
Wow.
We need to be different of that.
Yeah.
Okay, so Josh, David, there is someone somewhere maybe saying, well, thank God, hizi mashida zangu kumbe Mungu angalii na hana shughuli nazo. Maybe they are leaders somewhere in the church, or they are born again Christians, but they have been messing up and really judging themselves. But now they feel like wamepewa sasa nafasi waendelee as long as wanaabudu Mungu. What advice do you have for them? What can you tell them?
Maybe just to echo what I said last week in the show. People now, in the now age, they take the grace of God for granted. They take the grace of God for granted. You see, God was gracious with David. When David sinned, he went before God and he cried out to God, and the Lord was merciful to him. And you see, his grace was so much, and he told him, you know what, David, fine, I will not deal with you as I had planned. What I'll do, I'll take the child. That child is what I'll take as ransom.
As a consequence.
But it will still, the repercussions still will come later, not in your time.
Okay.
At the end of the day, any sin, as long as you're under the sun, will have to be punished. Right now, people think that there's no punishment for the sin they commit. They think God does not see. They think God overlooks because simply the grace of Christ has been poured upon us. No. We don't need to be taking Christ on the cross every day. By us continuing in sin, the Bible says that as you do that, continue in sin, thinking that the grace of God that has been poured will still, cover, you are crucifying Christ again. And that is a greater sin. You see? What we need to do is to, from our hearts, just as David was, a broken and a contrite heart, be true to yourself. And, just tell God I'm sorry. And I will not repeat it again. And make sure you don't. Because the moment you continue doing it, the Lord is looking from heaven. And a day will come. He will do the way he did to Saul.
Yeah.
He will reject you.
You can't.
Yeah. He will reject you. And when he rejects you, you can be in the throne thinking that God is still with you. But he's far away from you.
Ulibaki.
Yeah. Saul alipitia stress mingi sana. Simply because God left, na akajua God left, na amingia kwa David, he had to pursue David because anaangalia naona God alinitoka. Na umse ndo akona huyu God nataka.
Imagine watching your replacement.
Yeah.
Yani, I'm just
Unajua ni nani amekuwa replace.
These things are very serious.
Yeah.
Even including us who are believers born again in church. Yeah? When God, there's as Josh has said, there is no sin that has no consequences, right? And people misquote grace, people misquote the love of God and all that. But you see, there was a price that was paid.
Yeah.
Kuna price yenye Mungu alilipa for you to enjoy the freedom that you have. God will have a very big problem with you if he has offered you freedom, but you still choose slavery.
Yeah.
He has paid the price for you to enjoy freedom in him, but you still choose slavery. He has made a garment that is righteous for you, close to you, but you still go to the mud and still dine with pigs.
And the worst is, if you know it and you continue doing it.
Exactly. There is something about...
Like for babies, you can allow them to play in mud because you can understand.
Salvation is just like that, what I've said, Brain. As you get into salvation, it's a journey with God. It's not a journey with yourself. It's not a journey with your brothers and sisters. It's a journey with God. Personal relationship with God. You grow. Yes, you have brothers and sisters, but when you go before God, you are uko peke yako. Hautasimama na Brian na Josh. Tukienda heaven tutaitwa church ya JCC kujeni. Hapana, itakuwa ni wewe. Jesse, now stand here. I gave you this. You did this. You took it for granted. You allowed yourself to be tempted and went back to where. So I think the aspect of people misusing grace, first of all, it's either because they do not understand what salvation is, meaning they have not been discipled. Discipleship ni kitu ya maana watu wa Mungu. Discipleship. Because you are joining a kingdom that you have to be taught its precepts. All right? So when somebody comes into salvation and they are not discipled, there's also an error. Number 2, there is a submission. This person submitting to God.
Yeah.
It's not just by prayer, but God.
By choice.
This is what I mean. You're just chatting with on your WhatsApp, umeingia then kamessage kanaingia kwa ule mtu unajua huyu, I'm not supposed to be having a conversation with this person because at the end of the day venye inaishanga najipatanga in sin. But anyway, hakuna kitu happen leo. What are you doing?
You're tempted by your own desire.
Haikuwa getting kitu kutoka huko nje, ni kenye unataka. So unaangalia hivi unasema but wacha tu niongee naye for 5 minutes nimjulie tu hali. Ama unaangalia hivi unajua umemblock. Acha nimeongea conversation na watu wanaelewa saizi. Umemblock. Unasema by then nimemiss kuongea na umse. Wacha ni unblock, niongee na yeye, nimjulie tu hali. Wazazi wake wako aje, sisters zake wako aje, alafu tena nimblock.
Umesikia story yake mahali so una confirm.
You'll find yourself there. So I think, and God knows that. So he may allow, the first time alikwambia cut connection with this person, you went back. His grace is sufficient. His grace abound beyond sin. Then again, you discover, hey God, I'm very sorry. Then you go back again. Then finally you say, I will not do that. Then you go.
Ya mwisho
Sasa ya mwisho. What you're doing, you're slowly killing your conscience to that sin. So you get comfortable in that sin. And as you get comfortable in that sin, you die. I'm not saying just death, but you die to that. You're no longer, you don't feel the conviction of the Holy Spirit about that sin.
Actually, it's more or less he keeps quiet and chooses to watch you from a distance.
So unaweza jipata ni ukweli kuna vitu Mungu anaweza kosa kukupiga nazo. But watoto wako men.
Your generation suffers.
The story of David is a very interesting one.
There's no sin that goes unpunished. Even now in the time of grace. Ile watu wanasema tuko time ya grace, era ya grace. There's no sin that doesn't go unpunished.
Wow. Umeongea hivyo nikafikiria tu venye watu wekelea shetani saa nyingine.
The truth is anakuwa involved.
Ako involved. But zingine
anakurushianga hiyo temptation afu anaondoka na hapo kando.
But do you know something, Josh? Somebody told me, you know the devil has no ability to be everywhere at the same time.
Akona minions.
And that's why the Bible talks about when you're tempted by your own desire. Remember, there is a fallen nature. Josh, there is me, Jesse. There's a fallen state of Jesse. There are things that I'm attracted to. Without even yani ni vitu zimekuwa passed down as long as I was born of a woman. They have been passed down to me. So there are things,
the sinful nature.
Yes, I'll be tempted to. See ati devil atakuja kunizuzu. Ziko already ndani yangu. So
that's true.
The moment a right atmosphere is created, it will manifest. The enemy will not need to come and say, hey, niaje kuna kadema.
But yeye ndo ta create your right atmosphere.
Right atmosphere ni wewe. For example, I've given an example with, you know, for example, umse wagana shoddy deals. Umse anakuaga, he's not an upright person. And if I get involved with them, there's a high chance I might find myself in some serious problems. You know that. But because of money, you decide, you know what, I need to survive. So unaamua unakula ya kwanza, unasema
hiyo pesa ni tamu.
Pesa ni tamu. Si ni haraka ya pili ya tatu unanaswa vizuri tu hivi unaambiwa miaka 15. And you akunanga my friend akunanga guilty ya uchungu kama ile unajua aki I knew. This person is not good. Hiyo kitu wanga uchungu sana. I have been in those states and I know where you know very ukweli the first time you were with this unajua this is not the right person to have it. This is not the right thing to do. But somehow you just you created that atmosphere. But you knew it's not the right thing. And you got him.
Wow.
Kajiachilia. Let off your guard.
Let's talk about the many wives of David.
Powerful.
Yeah.
The who?
The many wives.
Powerful.
You know, many people, when we talk about many wives in the Bible, we only think of Solomon. But David,
how many did David have?
David had a couple. We know of Bathsheba. We know of the actual wife mwenye alipata from
the one that
the old
King Saul's daughter.
kuna King Saul's daughter, kuna mwingine bado.
She was Michal. There was Abigail.
Yes,
And
Abigail.
imagine defeating Goliath and the king decides to grant you a wife. Hey,
Imagine.
Wanaume.
Munaona
Where is your Goliath?
munaona opportunity.
Wanaume, go for your Goliath.
Tafuta president, muulize shida ya nchi ni nini.
nipatie shida moja ni solve alafu
Unipe.
Nipe bibi. But anyway, so was his polygamy a cultural thing, or was it a weakness? Brother Joshua Deacon.
nikamta Deacon.
Wadau, unaweza ndio hivi ni kama. Yeah. Cultural versus weakness.
Yeah, weakness.
One, I believe it was cultural. That's first. It was cultural because
So it was permissible
for
in
them,
terms of-
Yeah,
in
during
their,
their time
in their,
especially
yeah,
kings.
yeah, they had several because like David, the way he got Abigail.
yeah.
Look at the scenario. He goes, and there's this foolish man. Was he Naboth? Was his name Naboth? What was his name?
So, excuse me.
Crisis.
Aligongewa, sorry.
Cut. Anyway,
No, come back again.
come back again.
You see, it's so amazing that David looks at this lady coming with gifts and coming and telling him, "Oh, wise king, please." And she bows down to the ground and tells him, "Oh, my king, please forgive my husband. I know he's a foolish man."
Guy.
Oh, my lord.
Even as his name suggests, you understand. He has wronged you, but please forgive him and take these gifts. with
Even
you.
as his name suggests.
Yes, as
you
his
feeling-
name suggests.
Are you feeling some heart attack?
Madama, please, hata ukiona your lady pale,
Sikue fala.
usikue fala,
My
don't be
lord.
foolish.
So they see.
Be a wise man, eh?
Na jina kama pia inasema hivyo.
Kitaumana. Change your name.
After venye utafanya.
So you see, and this lady presents herself to David. Then when the king, that man dies, the husband dies. Now David sends for this lady, and you see they become something. There is the one who was promised to him, anapeanwa kwa mtu mwingine, but David is still demanding for her
Huwezi chukua
because it was promised to me. Me si actually promise yangu. Lawfully you promised and you said. You see. So for me it was more or less cultural than a weakness.
than a weakness.
Yeah, than a weakness. Then you see, definitely, by the way, these two wives, Bathsheba and Naboth, husbands are died. So the inheritance.
My friend.
I don't know. I don't know. You
Watch.
can tell us in the comment section.
Ni sawa, wacha
Yeah,
hao
tell us in the
watatuambia.
comment section.
Can I read a verse? Okay. Deuteronomy chapter 17. Let me just read from verse 16. The Bible says, the king, moreover, must not acquire great numbers of horses for himself or make the people return to Egypt to get more of them. For the Lord has told you, you are not to go back to the way again. He must not take many wives, or his heart will be led astray. He must not accumulate large amounts of silver and gold. So many wives, does it mean are two wives
Few.
many?
You can have few.
What is the
Depending
what is many?
What was many?
Yeah.
Tuambie kwa comment section, many ilikuwa ngapi? Maybe many ilikuwa 7
Kama hivyo kitu kama nani tisa.
ama 300.
ama 300 kama
Isifike
according to
1,000.
Solomon.
Ifike tu 300.
Many hakufika 2000. Anyway, there is a rule that God is giving the kings and how they and what captures my understanding. He says he must not take many wives, or his heart will be led astray.
Yeah.
Or his heart will be led astray. He must not accumulate large amount of silver and gold. Remember,
So that
there is a way that God wanted the kings to operate, to stand for. And he knew these are the things that may lead you to, may lead you astray, away from my precepts. And that's why he was saying, do not have many wives. So I would say both the culture and weakness.
and weakness.
Culture, yeah, as kings, they were offered wives like, yani,
Ni gift.
if you look at Solomon,
I
man,
give you my daughter.
Yeah.
that's what the culture, how it was.
So anyone could gift a king.
Yeah. Yeah, if king came to you like, hey, it would be an honor for you to have my daughter as your wife. In fact, at that time it was an honor.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, it is a signing of a treaty.
Bring it now to our cancel culture today. It cannot work.
Yeah.
Because again, we do not see women as gifts. At their time, they used to.
Yeah.
So they didn't have an
No,
option.
kupeano. That's why your mentality hatuwezi uchukua saizi to operate na hapa. It can't work for our generation. So the thing is this, when you look at David, first of all, there is a culture and there is the weakness. Sometimes I just ask myself, why did he choose to marry Abigail? Why? Can you give me a concrete reason?
Because
I think he saw the wisdom.
Yeah.
In
But
this
wisdom
lady.
doesn't mean you marry that woman.
It doesn't mean.
Exactly.
But probably from interaction, he felt, I think this might be a good
what?
Now
lady
that's a
to
good
have.
assumption. We can have them also post the assumptions. Let us
I would
hear
want to
why.
hear what people would
Yeah.
say because I don't see anything that qualifies Abigail to be David's
Why?
wife. Because in the place of wisdom does not mean just because someone is wise doesn't mean that you now take them to become your wife. You understand? I think that's why I'm saying there is an area of weakness. Because again, this is a woman maybe you can say that he wanted to help her because her husband her husband yake alikuwa mededi.
No inherit kila kitu ya husband yake.
Because again kuna deal alikuwa amepiga, si ndio? Then ikaenda
No, what happened is that when David and his soldiers were in the
they were supposed to
they were somewhere in the jungle or something. They took care of this man's belongings.
they protected
Yes,
exactly.
they protected. But then this guy's way of saying thank you.
Ni kumtoka mbaya.
So he got an,
umenitoka ndakutoka wife yako.
but also I think also Abigail felt
what, Josh?
yeah, it's possible.
It's okay, you can be attracted to a king because of the glory and all that, but that is okay for them. Kusema ukweli, I'm just putting myself in that position. And ukweli kings, if you look at how kings are, nowadays our generation, we don't understand what a king represents. For us, we understand presidents.
Yeah.
And president do not, they still carry the glory. If our president now passed right now, uta feel glory yake hapa. You will feel his power. So I'm just imagining a king. Man. So anyone who would want to relate with a king, man, everybody would want to relate with a king. Understand?
Yeah.
So I still say both culture and weakness.
Though the good thing when it comes to the weakness part, they never led him astray. Maybe you can conclude that way because you don't see David going astray because of
women.
No, yeah, I think there are decision. Josh, there are areas that the Bible is silent and we are deciding to be silent.
Let's work.
We have a very creative mind, Josh. If
Jesse,
I went that lane,
let's work with what the Bible tells us.
because if you go that way, you can easily say there are many stories that we don't know about David.
yeah.
We don't even there are many others when you're maybe concubines. Right?
Yeah. He had several. He had one final one.
Yeah,
when
the last
alipewa
Yes. So if it was then accepted back then, why did it bring so much dysfunction to his family? Yeah, Jesse.
And that's why I said there's a culture.
Yeah.
Okay? There are things that are culturally acceptable. Like if you go to a certain culture, even here today, there are tribes that they are okay with you legally marrying a second wife or the third wife or the fourth wife. You see, it's okay in their culture. But then again, for us who are born again, there is a culture that we subject ourselves more than the culture that we are in.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
Like
When
you're born again, you're born into the kingdom. You follow the kingdom precepts. And what does the kingdom say about marriage? So for you who is born again,
it is not about where you are born from.
it no longer becomes, it stops from being, because
from your background.
because now there is a wisdom of where you understand that God wants you to operate in a higher level than where you are.
Okay.
So people will practice culture, and according to the culture, are not wrong. But then again, there are areas that they will miss because of their culture practice. But then again, God wants you to move another level where He wants you to represent His kingdom, and His kingdom, marriage aspect yake ni hii.
As a certain culture as well.
Yes, and that's why in those cultures they don't allow kukaa kuja uchukue mweke kwa nyumba. You marry. they would want you to be like wako very serious ujulikane saa umeoa wanne ndio hao wanne declare
Okay.
so hakuna
you
tu
have
kuficha
to-
ficha
okay.
yeah
On
So
the other perspective, just to answer the question, the flip side of having many wives is that you'll have children.
many children.
And with children, at some point, they may never agree. They may never agree. They may never be in good terms.
Okay.
Because simply, there's a place where one will feel favored than the other. One will feel that we are treated better than, we are higher than, and they are all your children.
Okay.
David really tried, but kilimramba.
It was not working.
Kilimramba, because Solomon alitaka rulership, but there was also Absalom, who also was his son.
was the rightful was
You know,
according
the
to
firstborn.
it
You
was
see?
rightful for him to
Yeah.
become the king.
But you see,
Culturally, he was the one supposed
to inherit. But you see, there is now what God had already said,
Yeah.
that Solomon is the one who,
Oh.
you see, and even when Solomon was being enthroned, there was also this other brother who went to David's advisors and all that, and they agreed to make him king. But when he learnt about it, Solomon's mother quickly ran to the king and told him of what is happening. So with many wives come such things. Yeah. So such battles in the family, battles in the home. So it's better you have one than have many and have more battles.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So the Bathsheba scandal, David. Do you think David abused his power by getting Bathsheba, or was it a mutual? Was it a mutual agreement or mutual affair? Mutual affair
Between the two.
between the two.
He
Was it?
Is that a question or a trap?
it's both.
It's both. At a trap.
You choose the question and the trap. Separate them.
Yes.
Put the
Answer
trap.
the question.
Answer the question.
And jump the trap.
How is it mutual? I don't know. I wish I was there. I would have said if it was a mutual one. But then what really comes out of the Bible is that he abused his power. What really comes out of the story is that he abused his power because, he called her, she came, did what they did, then the repercussions came. With the repercussions, he decided to go the next step and eliminate Uriah. And you see, that makes it abuse of power.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
is Bathsheba a victim or a participant in this?
Accomplice. You mean
Yeah.
you want to
Yes.
ask if she's an accomplice?
Yes.
Please tell us in the
Comment section.
comment section.
Yes.
Was she
Section.
was she an accomplice or she was a victim?
Yes.
I think she was a victim. What would you if let's look at their era. Again, you're not talking about our era.
Yeah.
You need to differentiate the
The
time.
kings.
How would you say no to a king?
Does it mean? Is there any? Okay. Is there
Okay,
any?
let us
scenario?
look, let's look at scenario where a lady said no to a king. What happened?
But
Well,
does
she
it?
was taken. Okay.
She was
this
replaced.
This one was a queen.
Exactly. She was replaced ASAP. Imagine who is queen. So that's what I'm
If
saying.
a queen
During
can
their
be
era,
replaced.
whatever kings want, get.
Okay.
Yeah? Remember, when you understand what kings...
Not even what they want.
You see-
what they desire.
Exactly. You see, what a kings represent, this is how powerful kings are. A king's word becomes a law.
Immediately spoken.
If I say from now on, all men shall walk with all their limbs.
On fours.
You will walk. Kata, you will die.
Mbona hakuna king alijaribu hiyo?
Najua.
endelea.
So I'm trying to tell you that it doesn't matter if the lady says, no, I don't want. No. You can't say no.
You have no power there.
The reason why
Okay, maybe she can say no, but the king will still have it.
how would you even say no because you are afraid of your life? Because say, imagine, look at Esther. I'm biblical. I'm giving example. Look at Esther. Already there is some favor that the king has
receiving,
already started showing
Towards her.
to her. But the time Mordecai told her to go and talk to the king, she said that I cannot just appear before the king because my head may roll. I was not called into the palace.
Yeah.
So I have to follow what the king says. Like I have to he has to call me so that I can come. You understand? She did not take for granted that because I have favor with the king, me as appear. No.
I am legally a wife. Legally a queen.
I'm a
Exactly.
queen. I'm appearing
So
as a
just
queen.
imagine. So just now imagine a lady who is just bathing on the top roof. She's not a queen. She's not anyone.
But then,
She's the
why
wife of
couldn't?
one of the
Okay, what the worst that could happen is
Die. Exactly.
Okay,
And that is the
so,
worst.
That is the worst. Okay, so what if we will be remembering her for one solid stand that she made?
Maybe she will not be there.
Of
Maybe
course,
imagine
but
him-
that would be so
but I like-
encouraging for many
Maybe
ladies
imagine,
today.
okay, imagine if Bathsheba said no, then kuna lineage ya watoto wake wote wakuwa dealt with. King aseme kutoka leo watoto wa huu mama watatakuwa namalizwa. I wipe up the lineage.
Nothing will be said.
So I'm just putting you to the place where you have to understand you cannot place our understanding according to our time. Their time, it was very, man, it was impossible to say no to okay. Unless when ni prophet nani, aitwa nani? Prophets ndo walikuwa na the ability to do that because they knew they had power.
They had
and
God.
God was on their side.
Yeah.
But this was just an ordinary lady bathing on the roof. So I'm just thinking of it, putting now to a scenario where somebody may understand, bringing now to the ground level. Sometimes ukiongea king unajua inakaa kitu ngumu sana huko juu. Wacha niongelelea hapa. You're a person who is in a place, a workplace, where ni manager and uko na watu mafanyikazi. So
Kuna CEO.
yeah. So you have been paying school fees for a few of your children. And other children, other children's watoto wa wazazi wengine. So finally unaambiwa hey, by the way huyu amemaliza high school, sasa tunataka ingia university. Unaangalia marks unasema congratulations, hey, this is really good. Now I'll pay for your university. So unalipa. So this lady anajua ndio dependent, wewe ndio unamprovideanga. So you now start seeing, oh, by the way, she is now grown.
She's not
Anaweza kapoa.
Anaweza kapoa. She's
Kuna
no
venye
longer
anaanza
under
kukaa
age.
fiti.
Yeah. So unaweza kumwambia by the way, si umenotice nilikuwa nakupatia 2k. Sasa nakupatia 15k. Hey, by the way, I wanted to take you somewhere. So you start up mwambia come for dinner someplace. So she feels safe around you because you've been paying and you're okay. 15k unaanza kumpatia. To the point now you take the advantage, you have the power because you have been providing for her. She may make her decision, but there's a high chance that the decision that she will make will be subjected to your power. Like you will really convince her to do what you want her to do. You understand? That's why I mean that he had the power to, like, this is a person who is luring. He knows what he's doing. Because for King David to go ahead, aku apologize hapo atikasema najua tume. You know, even what makes it worse is that when the soldiers came back, he tries to set up for them to have time so that kama kutakuwa na mtoto haitajulikana ni wa David, itajulikana ni wa nani, ni wa huyu.
Actually, so when they came back, he called for him.
He called for him. So and the man is like, no, I have to go back. I don't. The guy anakataa completely.
I cannot sleep in my
So
house
it reaches, so
when
this
I
is,
know my fellow brothers wako in war.
and there's a difference between a mistake and evil.
Yeah.
Being evil,
So,
unaweza make mistake. And then there's being evil. Being evil is now what you're seeing David doing now. Anaanza kumwangalia sasa, kitajulikana, man. So what do I do? Wacha niondoe huyu jamaa. He plans of even how this guy will exit.
But you say that the word of the king is low.
Yeah.
Then why couldn't he have just used his word rather than killing an innocent man?
He's a man after God's heart. Whatever he's doing is being convicted. So he knew he was wrong.
Now isn't that hypocrisy?
Exactly. Yes. And that's why when you see the prophet comes to speak to him, he passes the judgment and says, this man should be done. Then the prophet says, now, that man is you. Look at how David behaves, how he responds. He feels it because he knew, enyewe kusema ukweli, hapo nimepoteza. So I think that's why I'm saying this guy took advantage of this.
I'm trying to imagine David in that season. Hiyo time yote. Yani David amechezea wife ya wenyewe. Na anajua ni makosa. Anatumana, brother anakam, brother analenga form, anamrudisha back to the battlefield.
Anashindwa atafanyaje.
Hiyo time yote ya kufikiria hizo vitu
restlessness.
zote
Nakwambia,
kuplan.
now that is evil. Mistakes, you see, that is how evil applies. Evil inakuwaga na way of now planning on how to do the mistake. Like you calculate. He calculated this guy's exit.
Vizuri sana.
Vizuri.
I think that's why Apostle says that even sexual sin, for you to commit sexual sin, you must have planned.
You have planned so well.
Hakunanga
You
kuangukia.
must have planned. Hakunanga ati nilikuwa natembea hivi nikategwa nikaanguka.
You have prepared the other side.
Hata kuiba.
Yeah.
Hata kuiba.
Okay.
Unaona ukiona kitu phone ikiwa hapo hivyo, akili waza kurun very fast.
Yeah.
Mwenyewe kwa
Planning
nini.
process.
So how do I exit from this place? Okay, nachukua kuna CCTV. Kuna mtu ananiona. So nikiwa saizi nitoke hakuna mtu ataniona. Okay, sawa. Watu wanasema ya kuomba. Okay, kianza tu kuomba hivi. That's planning.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
Okay, let's maybe move to the next one. I think these points are getting hot. Thank you for the conversation and the comments that are coming.
But there are those who
in
feel
them.
that Bathsheba took advantage. Aliona opportunity with the
Yeah.
king.
could be.
Pia kuna that side. So please
Unajua-
tell us.
Yeah, Bathsheba.
it's not written. It's not written.
Ndio
Please,
nasema,
it's not.
please tell us.
Well, I'm being told that my time is almost up. But then let's look at something, maybe quick and fast. Can a leader be still be effective while they are struggling with personal weakness, Josh?
Yes, you can. It depends also. Some people have mastered what they do or what they're supposed to do. Some of them have mastered because some could be routine, some could be repetitive, and some people have got it. They have a grip on what they're expected to do and how to be effective in what they do. But on the flip side is that anyone who's struggling with something, they normally, when they're in their closet, when they're not in front of people, that is when they really ponder about it, they think about it. It's inaokoroga kichwa, you know? That's when unapatanga someone struggling because they struggle with that thing on their inner selves.
It's an inner battle.
You see? And that inner battle is not really brought out to light when you're in front of men or when you are doing something with people and all that. It can manifest in one way or another because you might seem not connecting with what is happening. Probably think of a man who is struggling in his family and he's even contemplating suicide. When he's before men, he can do everything well to perfection. If it is about his work, he can do it and make the best choices and all that. But from his inner self, he could be struggling. He could be thinking, okay, namaliza hii shughuli, alafu nirudi wapi? As I'm going home, what am I going to do? Who am I going to meet? How will it be when I get home? And you see, it's a struggle from within. From outside, you can do so much. People can see your glory as it was and as it has always been. But from within, it's a real struggle. So it is very possible that you can be very effective as people look at you. You're dressed okay. You are doing things the same way.
Miracles.
Miracle signs and wonders are following you. But from deep within, it's a big struggle. Of course, that is in normal practical life. When it comes to the things of God, at times I feel that some struggles we go through, they at times hinder. Okay, it depends also. They hinder the full manifestation of God's presence because your struggles sometimes blind you to some things. You might be in the moment just about to perform a miracle, of course by the power of God, but because uko na struggle flani, you don't see things from the other perspective or from God's perspective. So it might hinder your effectiveness when it comes to ministry work or God's work. At times you can even struggle and choose not to be available simply because you are struggling with something. You can pull back and choose not to perform effectively. So it can affect both ways.
Both sides. Okay. So do you think, Jesse, at times we hold spiritual leaders, we hold them much higher, maybe in terms of judging them and what we expect from them, more than any other leader in the world, let's say political or business?
Yeah, I do. Because you see, spiritual leaders, one of the pillars that they stand on is moral behavior and being upright.
Morality.
In moral aspect. Yeah. So there is an aspect when you stand on a certain thing, there is an aspect that will judge you through that. So first of all, I'll answer it this way by responding that as what Josh has said, that of course, yes, God may use you, but you need to be cautious. There is a place, I think one of the bravest leaders is a leader that is accountable. It's very hard for some leaders to be accountable.
Wow, accountability.
Accountability is key because
And vulnerability.
if you have not looked for a person that you can be accountable for, you
Accountable
cannot.
to.
Yeah, I'm accountable to. Exactly. Thank you. You cannot be accountable to. It means that you leave your leadership. You don't have anyone to talk to.
Yeah.
Your issues. You don't have a person who may help you to walk in your struggles because we all coming from a place. I know we have this ideology of presenting the best of ourselves so that we may not be judged and so that we may look the part of what we represent. I know that. But that is the same thing that will be used to judge us. So there are areas that you might not be doing so well. Have you humbled yourself to be accountable to look for somebody that you can be accountable to? Somebody who can call you and say, whatever you're doing is not right. You know, I think that aspect should be there. That brings us to the spiritual leaders. As a spiritual leader, I know you have God in your life. I know you say you're a man of God.
Accountable only to God.
You are only accountable to God, but I think there is an error in that. Because the way God created the system of the world and how it operates, that's the reason why. Let me use the first one. Family. All right? There is a reason a child was not just born and left like that, survived by nature.
Like an animal.
No.
Yeah.
There is a reason why a mother and a father should be there to nurture that kid. All right? To grow,
them.
to teach them, to grow, to be able to conquer the world even when they are grown-ups. So even in our spiritual life, even if you are a man who you wake up every morning, you are sent to heaven, come back, preach, then are sent back. You have to have somebody you are accountable to, somebody who can call you and say, you know what, I've started noticing something is bothering you. Ama you can go and say, you know what, sir, my family is not okay. I'm currently
have a certain struggle.
I'm currently facing a divorce. I am currently struggling with alcoholism. I'm struggling with the issue of womanizing. I have a struggle with money. Or if you cannot be humble to look for someone, that is the same sin that will expose you. And trust me, the same people who used to clap for you are the same people who will shout, crucify him. So don't feel. So for us who are under spiritual leaders, let us first, I think one of the things I would say is this: let us first of all understand they are men of God.
Yeah.
So
Men
they are
first.
men, meaning they have flaws. There are things that God is working on in them. Even if they present themselves to be perfect, put it in your mind that they are still being worked on by God. Give them the honor that they need, that God is using them, but never put them to become second gods, that these people are perfect. Because the moment that person will make a mistake, you will be the first one to say that you are disappointed in them. And it get even worse, that you're not only disappointed by them, but you're also disappointed. Unakuagadi unajiuliza, is Christianity really?
Yeah. Because of what they represent.
Because of what they represent. And that's the reason, the biggest battle that you're fighting as a church, it is actually that. We are facing so much of, kumekuwa na me-expose sana as a church. Hadi siku hizi wase wanasema, church ni scam, God ni scam. So I'm just trying to show you the perspective of how the world is right now. So I think as a leader, as a congregant, understand he's a man of God. Do not... He's a man of God or she is a woman of God, but there is a woman and there is a man, meaning there are flaws that God is still using them with their flaws. The other thing is understand you as a man of God, or the woman of God, you have to have someone that you can go to, that you can say, you know what, things are not okay. I know you're seeing me manifesting in these areas. And it's true. By the way, God anaweza kuwa nakutumia in miracles, but you're dying in your home. You have real struggles. So you have to have somebody who is holding you.
Yeah.
That's why there is a general word that says that no man is an island. You have to have somebody. So
Yeah.
a great leader
He's not an island.
is not an island. He has to humble himself to be accountable to someone.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe in 30 seconds, tell us your final remarks and from this whole conversation. What do you get, or what can you advise someone?
Wow. This conversation is quite real. It's happening in our time and in our age where we need to be, aware of our weaknesses, aware of our strengths, and aware that we are men, we are of God. And at the end of the day, God has a very big expectation on us. The people also have a very big expectation on us. And it's only that our stories have not been written, just as David's story has been written. If ours was to be written as well, what we get to judge?
Definitely.
Just the same way that
Definitely.
we can look at David and judge. But what is most important is that from everything and in everything, have the lesson, get the lesson, learn, let God, use you in different ways, but as well have your heart connected to God's heart, so strong that nothing will take you away from his presence. Read your Bible, pray every day, be connected to God, even from your closet. Be connected to God and don't allow anyone or anything to take you away from the presence of God.
Wow. Connect with God.
Yeah.
Wow, that's powerful.
Yeah.
Jesse?
Personally, I would say that was an amazing conversation. I've loved it. I've learned a lot.
Yeah.
And I believe here, so as our viewers, there's something that you've gotten. And I think maybe I'll speak to our current generation, is that we need to understand that, yes, we need to hold the leaders accountable. Now I'm speaking to our generation today. Yes, we need to hold our leaders accountable. But the other thing we also need to know is that there is redemption. So just because a leader has failed in a certain area, don't dismiss them because you do not know the whole story. We are limited to the story. Every person has a story. I have a story, you have a story. And one day you might be on the spotlight and just one mistake might be taken and be put mtu alikuwa ama just a picture that you took when you were young. Pale Facebook, we are living in social media days. And then someone comes and say, hey, look at this. This was your man. This is now the guy who we are calling a leader. Maybe your time in your youthfulness, kuna mambo ulikuwa unapitia. So you need to understand we only know a very short story about ourselves and we do not know the full story. God knows the full story. So it's okay to hold leaders accountable, but let us also remember that there is a whole story. There is a story of redemption. Just because you have dismissed someone today doesn't mean that they will not be continue to walk in power as God has allowed them, because there is redemption. God is the one who redeems people. So I think for our generation, that is how we're supposed to look as to leaders. Finally, to us, we are our own critics. So unaweza jiangalia hivi ujidismiss kwa kitu yenye God amekuita. Maybe God has qualified you in a certain thing. But you ask yourself, am I really good in speech? Do I really know how to convince people? I mean, Joshua is good at that. I think Joshua is the one who is supposed to take up. No. When God chose you, knew that you are perfect for that. He equipped you with everything, including your weakness that you have. He knew that they will work perfectly to bring glory to his name. So I think at the end of the day, we need to understand we all answer to one God. If you're a believer, there's a story of redemption. No one cannot be, hakuna mtu mwenye hawezi kuwa redeemed. So let us trust God. Let us be gracious to one another. Be gracious to yourself. Forgive yourself sometimes, even when you make the mistake and you're like, I knew I'm not supposed to make this mistake. Please forgive yourself and move forward. Don't stay there. Move forward. And I believe you'll start seeing growth in your life, and I'll see growth in my life. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much. I hope you have learned a lot from this conversation. Personally, I just want to say that be a man who knows, your heart is guarded, and learn to connect with God, just like Joshua said. Have some time, mind what God thinks of you, not what men really think of you, because that is the point. When you start thinking of what people will perceive of you, or the mistakes that you have made, then you might not see heaven. If you allow people to keep rating you and doing this, then you not qualify for heaven. Just know that it is God who qualifies men. Okay. Wow. Thank you so much. This conversation has been real, and thank you so much for your participation in the comment section. I'm loving it. The Lord bless you. So we've come to the end of this conversation. I wish we had more time to discuss and to share. But then just to remind us, we have the charity drive that will be happening in Lamuria. The flyer is on the screen. The details are there. Please ensure you contribute. You send something, you donate, and that will be a blessing to someone. I know we'll be touching lives, and that is one of the purposes of mankind. Wow, thank you so much for tuning, and thank you for watching. Thank you for your time. The Lord bless you. We just want to say bye-bye.
Peace.
Peace.
See you then.